Hey y'all, hope you're doing well today. So in today's message, I want to share with you just some ideas on how to shift your mind into a place of peace, into a place that just feels better energetically, and how we can do that with intention, right? On purpose, consciously, all those kind of things. So I hope you're doing well today, and I hope you enjoy the message. So I ran across a quote that I haven't heard in a long time, and it, a couple of years ago when I found it, it was just great because it was so simple. It was something I could easily remember, and during tough times I could recall it just to myself, and it would just give me a little chuckle. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we need humor. We need to have like access to these great little gems of humor that we can just tap into in a moment when we need to, just to kind of diffuse some bad energy, you know what I'm saying, some bad vibes that we might find ourselves in the middle of. So I'm going to share this with you. It's just real simple, but it's a great reminder too, and that is, you can't get orange juice from apples. And how true is that? So obviously this is a metaphor for, you have to take people as they are. You have to see the fruit they bear, and you have to accept it, and not try to think that you're going to be having any kind of impact on them to change them for the positive by any means. Even if you can see that despite their mask of being okay, even though you can see that there's some serious issues going on there, it's just, you have to let it be. You have to let it be. Now, by chance, you never know. You might actually have an impact on somebody, but it's not something that we need to expect to happen, and we certainly don't need to get involved with somebody thinking that they will get over whatever issues they have during the time we're with them, right? And I'm saying this from personal experience. So, but I think that's just a great little kind of cute, funny, lighthearted saying that you can just take with you everywhere, right? You can't get orange juice from apples, or I've heard it both ways, you can't get apple juice from oranges, whatever. So it's very, very true. And just tuck that away in your mind. Just keep it a little secret, something you can laugh about when you need to. But what's interesting is I was actually reminded of this fairy tale that I want to actually I want to do a deep dive on. I want to research it and look into the symbolism of it, and as part of my Halloween series this month, and it's Little Red Riding Hood. And it's funny because she reminds me of us and how we just totally ignore red flags, and thinking we can get orange juice from apples. She goes into grandmother's house, and here's this super dangerous wolf, right? And it's dressed up like grandma, and she's like, "Oh, grandma, what sharp teeth you have." It's like, okay, so I definitely think there's some deeper meaning there. We're gonna look into it, but it's like, she's all this little innocent, rose-colored glasses kind of person, like I used to be, right? Like a lot of us used to be, naive, and she's just still trying to be so hopeful that she's ignoring the danger right in front of her, the evil eye that a predator can give you, right? Whether it's a wolf or a wolf in sheep's clothing, you know what I'm saying? So we just need to always remember that if you see an apple, it's an apple. You're not going to extract any different kind of juice out of there. You know what I'm saying? Call it as you see it. Even if you just call it inside, don't say nothing, which is, I think, the safest thing to do. But anyway, as we head into winter, at least here in the northern hemisphere, I think sometimes the weather can impact us, and I think there's even like a real term that that addresses the fact that, you know, weather can cause depression and things like that. I don't know what the term is, but I've heard of it years ago. But, you know, it's really true that, you know, our environment can absolutely impact us. The outside can impact the inside for sure. And so, you know, when you've come out of a bad situation, a toxic situation, you've gotten away from a narcissistic individual, a sociopath, whatever it was, and you've done your work and you've gotten to a good place of healing, then it's kind of like you're really not so much focused on that person anymore, like at all. But what you are still kind of attached to in some way is the darkness itself. It's kind of like it leaves this residue in your mind and heart. And that's what's kind of hard to shake off. So I think a lot of times people who haven't gone through this stuff, they're not going to get you like another person that has been through something similar. And so, you know, they can mistake this when they see you, you know, kind of still struggling to be motivated every day or whatever. They see you that you're not like you used to be and all this stuff. They can think that you're still attached to that person, but it's not that. It's just that you're still enmeshed or entangled in the darkness in some way, and it's not a place you want to be. It's not intentional. It just kind of is. Like I said, it's like a residue. It's sneaky like that. Darkness is very sneaky, and it does impact us. So what we need to do, and this is what I want to talk about today, is sort of recalibrate. I love that word. I don't know, it just sounds mechanical and like you can just pop the hood. I'm sitting here in my Jeep and I'm just thinking like, okay, this sounds doable. You know what I'm saying? It's like, let's use a metaphor that's like, you know, sounds workable and realistic. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're just going to be recalibrating ourselves so that the darkness, it's almost like if you're trying to fight the darkness head on, it's almost like you're just getting further entangled in it, just the same way it was when you were trying to meet the narcissist tactics head on too, right? Like if they were using gaslighting on you in a conversation and you're trying to pull through or just be victorious within that conversation despite the gaslighting. It's like the more you tried to pull through, the deeper in you sank. It's kind of like that. That's how I view the darkness itself. It's like when you're so focused on it that you're trying to bring yourself out of it by focusing on it, you're just going to get deeper in. So in recalibrating, it's like what we're doing is we're intentionally shifting our attention. We're transferring our attention over to the light, to the good. And in so doing, the darkness kind of fades away. It's sort of like that Bible verse that says, resist the devil and he will flee. Not like, you know, throw punches. Not like, you know, be engaged with or argue with or debate with the devil and you'll win. It's not like that. It's resist, right? So in transferring or shifting our attention over to the good or the light-hearted things, good things, which we're going to talk about today, the darkness just sort of, that residue sort of just melts away and goes away, right? And I know this to be true. I'm not saying this just totally theoretically because I've experienced it. But it's not something that's a one and done thing either. It's kind of like an ongoing thing. And I think it's just a good rule of thumb anyway. I mean, I think all of us go through, you know, just hard stuff. And so, you know, it accumulates the older you get in life, you know, as you age. And so it's something that's just a good rule of thumb as far as approaching every day anyway, in my opinion, right? So in letting go of this person or the people, whoever it was that you identified as just being flat out liars and, you know, people with bad intentions or whatever, it's kind of like, for me, part of letting that go, I didn't really struggle so much with anger. It was just shock. It was just really shock. And I was just kind of disappointed in the time that I spent as far as my life engaged in the darkness, hoping for better. And it was kind of like spinning my wheels for nothing, you see. So, not to say that anger is wrong. I think that there's like, even like an actual identified, chart, or, there's like an outline of stages of healing or stages of forgiveness, I think. I encourage you to look it up if you have interest, but anger is part of that, I believe, part of the healing process. But I know I've come so far along that maybe I did pass through it. Maybe it was brief and I just don't remember it. But it's kind of like, as you're letting go of that person, if you have any kind of belief system in place, it's kind of like that helps to me, because you, like, spiritually, because you know that, like, karma, no matter what you want to call karma, from the Christian lens, it's where there's a Bible verse that says, God says, vengeance is mine. And so it's kind of like, okay, I've let that go. I've given that to God. I've laid it, at the feet of Christ, or however you want to say it, whatever lens you want to use. But it's kind of like you've been able to let that go because you're trusting in that process. Okay. But what we fail to do, and this is what I want to bring really to the forefront today in the message, is we fail to apply that same logic to us. It's like we really were just putting our best foot forward for so long and investing and pouring so much of ourselves into a dark situation, and we feel like it was for nothing, see. But I want to give you hope that it's not for nothing, because there's a Bible verse that says, and I'm sure this is what's cool, by the way. I encourage you, again, if you have interest, to see if you can find parallels in other belief systems or religions, and just different myth and folklore throughout history. I bet there's parallels with regards to this too, but there's a Bible verse that says, whatever you do, to do it heartily, like with all your heart, not as unto men, but as unto God. Okay? And to me, that's just very supportive of karma in the good way. And this is what I want to encourage you with, primarily today, is I don't believe all that we invested was for nothing. It feels that way. But see, it's kind of like, there's another Bible verse. They come to me and I just have to use them in the moment because they're supportive of my message. But this other verse says that when you pray, you're supposed to do that in secret, so that God will reward you, like outwardly, openly. But if you're doing it for show, which is not true intentions, that's more of a narcissistic type thing, if you're doing it for just literally to get attention. I'm not talking about like preachers or people who are trying to encourage others. I'm not condemning that at all. I'm just talking about the people who are truly, it's just for show, just for attention. God says, well, they're already rewarded, by getting the attention from the outside. That's their reward. So he's like, I'm not going to reward them because they already got what they wanted. See? So apply this logic, all of this logic, to you, to the fact that you invested so much, even though we didn't have the best discernment, and we didn't pay attention to red flags, and we just held on to hope, with our last dying breath. It felt like, just hanging on by a string, just not wanting to give it up, those rose-colored glasses. Just take heart that it wasn't for nothing, because God saw it. God saw it. And so when you're doing things heartily as unto God, see, we weren't wanting to personally get repaid. We just wanted this person to get better and to see them truly smile and experience joy, and not be so deeply enmeshed in their issues, you know what I mean, or their dysfunction, or their what do you call it, dysregulation, or whatever it is. It wasn't for personal gain. Now, we would have benefited if we were in a relationship with this person. That certainly would have been a byproduct, or a result, but that wasn't the reason we were doing it. We were doing it just because it was the right thing to do, to try and lift this person up, you know, or help them shift their perspective. And the joy of, it's like an intrinsic type thing to watch this person grow and heal or whatever, right? God sees all this, and He knows that we did all of this, and He knows that we invested this time. And I want to give you hope there, that it wasn't for nothing, okay? But what we're going to be doing is consciously transferring our attention, okay, to good things. You know, I feel like we really do need things in our life that spark inspiration. Humor's always good. I'm always talking about that. And I think that we need to start being really intentional about choosing our environment, you know, and just making sure that there's this measuring stick within our minds and hearts that says, you know, how is this atmosphere? Is it good? Is it, you know, really dark? Is it good, but there's a little darkness in there I can see, you know, and this particular person that's dominating the atmosphere or whatever it is, just kind of gauge it. You know, how does it feel energetically? It doesn't have to always be like a textbook academic kind of assessment, you know, where we're trying to intellectualize something to death. It can just be like a energetic, you know, ometer, you might say, within yourself, you know, assessing, does it feel right? Does it feel good? That's where you're reconnecting again with that intuition. That's a good thing, you know. But we just want to shift into, by doing this stuff consciously, on purpose, thinking about it, doing it with intention, what we're doing is shifting our balance, see, or we're shifting rather our life into a place of balance, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, because what we don't realize, we were so outwardly focused on this bad situation or whatever it was, this darkness, you might just say, whatever you want to call these people, this situation. We're so outwardly focused that we neglected ourselves, and because of that, we became so out of balance. See, so as part of your healing, it's about getting back in balance, shifting into balance. So I found some really cool new videos. There's one channel that I had forgot about, I found a long time ago, and it popped back up in my feed, and I was thankful, and I've subscribed. And then there's another one that was similar that popped up, and I subscribed to her too, and I want to share them with you. I've created, you know, I've had a playlist for you all called For the Warriors for some time, where I had music that I just liked, that was upbeat, that helped to create that good vibes, you know, that good atmosphere, good energy. And what I wound up doing was I changed the name of that to Dash Music, For the Warriors Dash Music. And then I've created a second playlist called For the Warriors, where I'm just putting helpful videos about understanding how the darkness operates, but I also want to put some in there that are inspirational. So I'll be popping some of those in too. But there's this one channel called Jonna Jinton, Jonna Jinton, and she's an artist, a musical artist and a visual arts artist, and she's just cool. She's from I think Norway, I'm pretty sure, but just way up there close to the North Pole, basically in the Arctic area. And so the scenery is gorgeous. She seems to just have a very beautiful soul, you know, from what I can tell, and she's very inspirational in herself. And what was cool when I watched some of her stuff this morning on YouTube, which is, you know, my primary the thing I watch on my television is YouTube all the time. I like real stuff, real people, you know what I mean? We dealt with actors already for so long, it's like, okay, we're done with that. But you know, just real people, that's what I love. And so, but watching her, she reminded me of myself, you know, like 20 years ago. I'm dating myself when I say that, but and it just it was very inspirational. It was kind of like just it definitely sparked inspiration for me to be reminded of that kind of spirit, that lighthearted spirit that felt hopeful. And we shared a lot of the same interests with art and our outlook on nature and everything, and I thought it was really cool and it was helpful for me. So I want to share that channel with you, Jonna Jinton. And then there's another one I found that just popped up. You know how YouTube's algorithms. This one's called Cecilia Blomdahl. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Blomdahl. I'll put the links down in the description. But she and I guess it's her husband, they live in, I believe, Sweden. And the scenery there is beautiful. And she just kind of, just posts just casual videos of their life and the scenery and what it's like there. And, how she says that coming up towards the end of October, they'll be going into darkness until February, and how she loves that, and just a totally different way of life. And because their atmosphere, their environment is different, their way of life is a little bit different. The way they decorate their house and what they do with their time, and so it may give you new ideas for new hobbies and stuff. They do Legos, and my daughter has gotten into Legos, and she's really young. I was kind of surprised, but she's great with them, and I'm so proud of her. And she's even corrected me, like she doesn't even need my help, but she'll be like, here, Mom, can you help me with this? Because she knows I want to participate and stuff. Like, yeah, and I'll just help her with it, and she'll just kind of sit there and grin at me and be like, well, it actually goes here, and she'll fix it. Excuse me, y'all, I'm getting better though. So she just really, she inspires me. We love to do puzzles together, and so Legos are just like a 3D puzzle. Anyway, I've really gotten into that. We've done the Moana's boat, and then now we're working on Gabby's dollhouse. And I found out by watching Cecilia's channel, you can do Lego flower bouquets. How cool is that? I'm so excited. So it's just little things like that, that just, what you're doing is you're taking control over your mind and heart, your energy, and you're doing it by starting on the outside. Remember, we got entangled with the darkness within another person or within a group or whatever, because our focus was out here, which is, don't blame yourself for it. I feel like as an empath, that's just kind of natural for us, to have that point of focus be external, because we're just caring like that. And on that note, Dr. Les Carter had an interview, a collaboration with Judith, I think her last name is Orloff, this morning on his channel, Surviving Narcissism, and it was great to listen to. Just two very good-hearted, down-to-earth people, and they were talking about empaths, and it's just very validating sometimes. I like to hear about the good people and what our hearts and minds are like. It makes us put the focus back on ourselves, and it helps us to feel validated and stop blaming ourselves, for getting entangled and stuff. So it's just a great listen. I'll drop that link down there too. But anyway, since we were just so focused for so long externally, and you may have been conditioned to be an empath in that way. Just a side note, if you grew up with a narcissistic parent or grandparent or family member or whatever, that especially if they were emotionally dysregulated, it's kind of like a survival thing. You kind of had to be focused on them, trying to make sure they were okay, helping to regulate this other person who couldn't regulate themselves. So it conditions you and trains you to be externally focused, see? And then I believe that sets you up to be taken advantage of down the road by someone who wants you externally focused on them at the total exclusion of your own needs and well-being, see? But anyway, sometimes when you're looking for effective healing techniques, you can just kind of utilize that tendency that you have to be outwardly focused. It's like, okay, well, let me start out here. If that old saying is true, that the battlefield's in the mind or whatever it is, then and you can't, remember, the more you engage with the enemy, you might say, which is the darkness within your mind, you're just getting further, you're sinking further in the mud, like Ross Rosenberg talks about a lot. Then okay, well then just resist that engagement with the darkness if it's still kind of lingering up here as an after effect, and just put your focus out here, but put your focus out here on something good. See, that's something you have control over, what you focus on, what you put your attention on. So when you're looking for stuff that's right for you and good for you, I think you'll know, because you might try some things and it's kind of hard to stay focused on it. That's just to me, that just tells you it's not the right stuff for you. Whether it's a new YouTube channel or videos or a hobby or whatever, it just means it's not the right one for you. The way I know if something's right for me, that I'm engaged with and trying to really put my attention on, is if I get lost in it. If I can get lost in it, then that's great. That's, to me, that's a great indicator that it's for me. You know what I mean? Excuse me, y'all. But, you know, years ago I visited Alaska. It was awesome, you know, because I live in the South. And so that was a very different atmosphere for me. And I could do a whole nother video on that, or several actually. But when I was there, I kind of expected it to be a little boring, to be honest with you. I thought it'd be pretty, you know, get some good pictures out of it. But I've always been drawn to, you know, tropical type vacations, and so I wasn't really sure what to expect. But I'm gonna tell y'all, there was like an energy there. I'm serious. It was like magical, but it was foreign to me. It's like it felt like home. It didn't feel foreign, but I had never felt it before. But when I was there, it's like I felt like I was close to home. And energetically, just with the environment, the atmosphere, energetically. And as I started talking to different people, you know, at craft fairs, and like on a boat tour, looking at glaciers and stuff up there, as I started talking to people that live there, you could tell that same feeling was just emanating from them, and they'd flat out tell you about it. In fact, I met several people. I didn't talk to a whole lot of people, but it was a high percentage of people that I actually did talk to who told me that they actually moved there after coming there on vacation, and they felt like it was where they needed to be. It was the coolest thing ever. It's almost like just this magnetism, you know, that draws people there. But anyway, it was really cool. So I love anything, you know, that's about that area. It's just magical up there. It's beautiful. The nature's incredible, and the people are awesome, and it's just really something else. So I'm very drawn to the Arctic, and I don't know why. I just am, you know. But yeah, you know, I've done art a lot in the past. That used to be a great hobby for me. Specifically, I did oil painting in college, but it's so messy and stuff. So I really liked acrylic painting, and then I got into encaustics, which is where you melt and pour wax, and you make these artworks, you know, on like a wood platform or whatever, and it's melted wax, and you just kind of pour it, and then you kind of put a heat gun to it to kind of blend it. It's just beautiful, very unique. I haven't been able to get back into it though. I just haven't felt it, you know. I even went and bought some new stuff for it, but it's just sitting there. So, you know, you have to just honor where you are in your healing. And I just encourage you not to force yourself to go back to something if it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? I know in the right time, I'll go back to it when it feels right. But it's about timing, you know? I was inspired recently to get back into playing piano. I'm not an expert by any means, but I took lessons a while back, and I had this awesome folder full of one-of-a-kind printouts from this piano teacher that I went to, and it was just incredible, just great music like Desperado and some Carol of the Bells, and just some incredible music. And the way it was formatted was not like your standard where you have to read the notes. I've never been good at that. It was just formatted in a way that you could pick out the chords and then just kind of, I think it's called ad lib, you know what I mean? And I could do it, and I was taught that way. But y'all, I've lost it. I moved, and I can't find it anywhere, and it's killing me. It's killing me because I want to get back into it so much. But just a side note there. I feel like I'm rambling, but essentially, let me just share this, see if this sounds familiar for you. So when you were in this bad, toxic situation, narcissistic relationship, whatever, and you finally realized like you gotta get out of it, didn't it sort of feel like you just were running for your life energetically, or possibly really? And so I think that we kind of stay in that mode for some time, like a hypervigilant, just let me just, and the way it can manifest sometimes is like just this vigilance where you just get really busy into stuff, or you just really don't want to engage socially for a while. You're just kind of running, which I mentioned, Desperados, kind of like that, isn't it? That song, the lyrics. Yeah, but it's like you're doing that for some time. You're running for your life, and then at some point you find yourself, you realize that you're kind of a hermit, and you're kind of just you've gotten real comfortable in your little hermit cave. But then at some point, the light shines again. At some point you are ready to re-engage with the world, but you want to be real careful about it. So you're like tiptoeing back out into reality, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I am now. You want to be careful, you want to do it slowly, and I just encourage you, if that's where you are, or just any point during your healing, this is good. We need to start using periodic check-ins. And this is what I mean. It's like conscious, intentional assessments on our energetic health. It's one thing to think about your physical health and to do what you need to do to stay good there. Even your spiritual health, if you're going to church or however you take care of that. But I'm talking about like energetically. Okay? If we do these conscious, intentional assessments, it's kind of like saying to yourself when you wake up or midday, you got a break, from work or whatever. It's kind of like, what's my frequency like? Is it vibrant? Is it life-giving? Conducive to being motivated and just having this life-giving force? Is it freely flowing? What's my frequency? Or is it more of like a stifled and anxious, kind of rigid sort of energy? You know what I mean? Checking your frequency. If you do find that you are, it's weird how you can be this way and not even consciously recognize it. That's what I mean when I say we need to do this on purpose. It's like getting into the habit of it, creating this new habit of checking that, okay? And if we do find that we are actually kind of stifled energetically, then we can consciously reject that, okay, with our mind. And furthermore, remember, if the mind's the battlefield, and the more you stay there and the deeper you sink, you can reject that energy or that frequency with your actions. Again, we're starting from the outside to transform the inside. Kind of like feng shui, right? Just cleaning up your house, and that's good too. Rearrange stuff. Just kind of move your furniture around a little bit. Go buy a new rug, whatever it is. Turn your blinds this way instead of that way. Just, you never know what it is that might actually impact you energetically. Just tune in there, right? And reject that energy with your actions, okay? You're resisting the darkness in that manner because you're taking control over what you have control over, actually, in the world, okay? Another thing we can do is breathing techniques. There's this, I learned this in my yoga classes. There's something called alternate nostril breathing, where you can place 2 fingers on your forehead and then use your pinky and your thumb to close your nostrils. And you can look this up, okay? This is still kind of new to me. But essentially, you can close one nostril and you're only breathing through the other, okay? And so you breathe in slowly, and you can count, and then you breathe out through that same nostril, and then you close. You switch sides and you close, and now you're over here on this one. You're breathing in slowly, and then you're breathing out. It's alternate nostril breathing. There's another technique called boxed breathing, where you breathe into a particular count, depending on what you can, 3 or 4 or 5, if you're used to it. You breathe in, you hold it for that same count, and then you breathe out to that same count, and you hold for the same count. So it's like, 3 seconds breathe in, 3 seconds hold, 3 seconds breathe out, 3 seconds hold, just with both nostrils. That's, I believe, called boxed breathing. But that's another thing you can do, an action, a physical type thing that you can do, to take control over your mind, your intention, your attention, and your intention, okay? And if you want to just add on top of that, when you're breathing out through these breathing techniques, just be thinking about breathing out toxicity, darkness, the remnants of darkness, bad feelings, bad energy. Just be thinking about that as you're breathing it out. Okay. So I think there's all these different techniques we can use to raise our vibrations, however you want to call that or label that. You know, I'm reminded of that. I believe he was Japanese. I guess he was a scientist where he did, you can Google this, where he did this experimentation with exposing frozen water to beautiful words like love, and grace or whatever, or beautiful music too. And then he also did the same with, you know, like heavy metal music and harsh words, or, you know, yelling. And he has photographed the results, and there's a book on this actually, because I bought it a long time ago. But the results are incredible. And you know what it reminded me of? Well, vibrations, obviously, and how vibrations and energy can actually impact our physical world, including us. See, you know, being impacted energetically was even discussed on the show I watched this morning that I mentioned with Dr. Les Carter and Judith Orloff. They were talking about, you know, these are professionals. They're talking about being impacted energetically. It's a real thing. I truly believe it. It's one of those things that you can't see it with your eyes, but there's evidence that it exists. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, this experimentation with the frozen water was incredible, and it reminded me of praying over our food. How, you know, we're encouraged to pray over our food before we eat, or there's even, you know, what they call holy water. See, so what if we can change the structure? This is totally hypothetical, but just go with me. It's not going to hurt to think about it, you know. What if literally it's not just a nice thought in our mind, a wish, an empty hope? What if it's a literal thing that we can change the structure of the water we drink or the food we eat by prayer? I mean, we're explicitly instructed in the Bible to think on these things, meaning, and it lists what things we're supposed to think about, whatever is good and lovely and true, all the good things. That's how you resist the darkness, not by focusing on the darkness, but by focusing on the good. That's how you resist the darkness. You invalidate it. You make it irrelevant. See? Excuse me. So, I mean, hey, it kind of seems like everything's energetically, you know, entwined, doesn't it? So, or interwoven. So, it's not going to hurt, you know, to do these things. But I feel like, for me, my new goal now in life is like, my baseline energetically is like one of being calm but motivated, you know. And so in that regard, I want to encourage you to define what peace means to you. You know, peace is just kind of one of those labels, again, that's just kind of like we gloss over it. What does it mean for you? Like, how would you describe how that would be meaningful in your life? For me, like I said, it's like a calm, you know, energetic calm, but I'm motivated at the same time. Not an anxious motivation, but just a living with purpose, okay? So defining what peace means for us, that's a good thing to do too. So, you know, as we are getting back in balance, and we're doing these things energetically, what's actually happening, just a visualization you can add to this, is it's like we're cutting that energetic string to the darkness, to these dark memories, to the dark past. We're cutting that string. Or sometimes people call this cutting a soul tie. See? But there's essentially a transition that's happening. And you know, when you're still connected energetically, because you haven't learned, even though we've had all this instruction in the Bible and ancient texts and everything else, when we're thinking that we're trying to do good and, you know, heal, but we're still connected here because we're putting our focus here, and then we're wondering why we're not getting better, it's because we haven't cut that string. and that's how we do it, you know. That's how it seems to be. That's how we resist it, and it's kind of like it just sort of dissolves on its own. You see what I'm saying? But we're bringing purpose back into our life. That, to me, is how we thrive. Focusing on the good and living with intention, consciously, and ultimately defining what peace is for us and what our purpose is. Finding our purpose along the way. The longer we operate this way, I think our purpose will become apparent to us. It'll just sort of be revealed in that manner. I do think we need community. We just need to be careful and kind of live with a certain level of reservation, with our pearls. Only sharing those with discernment, but shifting our decision making, as far as what's good or what's not. Now, as far as what's good and what's not, consider this too. I'm about to wrap it up, but you have to be careful. A trap can be, and when I say a trap, I mean something that can get us stuck, and then we start to sway back over here to, this dark energy. Instead of focusing on what looks good, or making decisions based on what looks good, or what sounds good, we're going back to our senses again, see? And we're encouraged not to operate via our senses, right? To be in the world but not of it. So how about we exercise this higher thinking, which is we can engage our intention, our energy there, as far as determining what is actually good, not what looks good or tastes good or seems good or feels good, but what is good, just something, a little shift to make in our mind there. But essentially, I just want to leave you with what I mentioned earlier to wrap this up, and that is that Bible verse, which is, whatever you do, do it heartily as unto God. Okay? Because this is a way to operate from an expansion, a higher viewpoint. It's kind of like just the law of karma. You don't have to worry about those who have wronged you, because I believe it'll come back to them. It's a part of a lot of different belief structures, but the same would apply to us in the good way. If we've put good out into the world, another snare or trap that might get us focused back on the darkness is expecting the return to come back to us in a particular way, within a particular timing, from a particular person, whatever it is. So instead of having those specific expectations or desires, and having that goodness returning back to you in those ways, just try to live expanded. And just, it's a way to walk in faith, to know that, hey, I've put this out there. I've done this goodness. It felt like it was for nothing, but it wasn't. I did put this goodness out there. And so God knows, okay? And so it's out there, and I believe it will be returned back, to us, but we just don't know how. And see, that's how surprises work. And who doesn't love surprises? Good ones, at least. So, I do. I believe it'll come back to you. With a surprise, the only way those work is if you're patient and you're trusting, see? And so, again, if you're expecting this stuff to come back in a person, you're placing your trust in a person. And we're explicitly told not to do that in the Bible, because it talks about the corruption of the human heart. So just place your trust in the universe, in the good Lord, in our Heavenly Father, and whatever lens you want to apply, and just trust that it will come back to you in the right time and in the right way, with or through the right person. And I just hope that this helps warm your heart. I hope that you're able to carry the positive message that's in this video throughout winter, and the hard times, the cold times, and just I hope that it warms you throughout winter and always. So I hope that you've been encouraged and inspired. Thank you so much for coming along to hear the message. I hope that you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you again very soon.